The most dangerous zone between borders. This 100-mile stretch is considered one of the deadliest areas in the world. Crossing it is often referred to as passing through the Valley of Death. It's because of this region that even in modern times, North and South America are not connected by any road or rail network. Throughout human history, only 7 attempts have been made to cross this area by car or jeep. Despite how dangerous it is, for some people, crossing this area is absolutely necessary. Every year, thousands, if not millions, of people from South American countries, especially Colombia, Ecuador, and Venezuela, attempt to cross this area in pursuit of a better life in Central and North America. In 2022 alone, 250,000 people tried to pass through the Darien Gap to reach Mexico and eventually the United States. But among those 250,000, hundreds died trying to cross this deadly gap. What is it about this 100-mile stretch that makes it the most dangerous area in the world? And with all the money and technology available today, why hasn't anyone attempted to build a road or rail network through this area? Let's answer these questions. The truth is that even in the 21st century, where state-of-the-art cities have been built in the middle of scorching deserts, creating any kind of infrastructure in this small area is incredibly challenging. There are 4 main reasons for this. #1. The dangerous weather. The Darien Gap is located roughly 100 kilometers north of the equator, which means it experiences very hot weather. To make things worse, it sits between the North and South Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, leading to extremely high humidity. This area is covered in dense jungle, and it rains here almost 330 days a year out of 365. Not only does this constant rain cause flash floods, but it also leads to frequent landslides in the mountains. Because of the heavy rainfall and flooding, construction is extremely difficult here. Materials like concrete, cement, or asphalt need dry, warm weather to set properly. Even if you manage to overcome this, the second most dangerous thing about this area is #2. Deadly wildlife and insects. The Darien Gap is home to some of the deadliest snakes, spiders, and mosquitoes on Earth. Nowhere else on land are you more likely to encounter poisonous creatures. And since there are no hospitals or even any settlements in the entire area, if you get bitten by any of these creatures, survival is nearly impossible. This is why many people who attempt to cross the gap fall victim to diseases like malaria or dengue fever, or die from snake bites or drowning in the rivers. However, it's not completely impossible for countries like the United States to build a road here. It would be expensive, yes, and very challenging, but not impossible. So why hasn't anyone tried to build a road or rail network here? The real reason is that some countries don't actually want a road built here, especially the US and Panama. #3. Political concerns. In the 19th century, Panama was actually a province of Colombia. However, due to the isolation caused by the Darien Gap, it was difficult for Colombia to maintain control over Panama. The only way Colombia could remain connected to Panama was through the sea. This disconnection played a role in Panama's movement for independence, which gained momentum in the early 20th century. The rising superpower of that time, the United States, took a great interest in Panama's independence. Why? Because of the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal was crucial for U.S. interests, as before its construction, ships traveling between the eastern and western U.S. had to go around the entire continent of South America. This made trade and military movement extremely difficult. Once the canal was built, it allowed U.S. trade ships, and the Navy, to travel from coast to coast in a matter of days, rather than months. However, Colombia refused to give the U.S. control of the canal, which prompted America to support Panama's independence movement. By 1903, Panama had become an independent country, and the U.S. became the first nation to recognize its independence. In return, Panama's government gave the U.S. a permanent lease on the land around the canal, and this area remained under American control until 1999. Even today, this canal is one of the most strategically important points for global trade. About 6% of the world's trade passes between South and North America through this choke point. Every year, 13,000 to 14,000 cargo ships pass through the Panama Canal, which connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Most of the trade between Eastern Asia and the U.S. passes through this canal, and it's heavily used by both the U.S. and China. It's also the main route connecting the western U.S. coast to Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. So, why hasn't a road been built through the Darien Gap? Part of the reason is that the U.S. is concerned that if a road were built, Colombia's drug cartels could use it to reach Panama and possibly damage the canal. Currently, the cartels have to use sea routes, where Panama's coast guards often intercept them. But if a road were built, smuggling drugs through Panama, and ultimately into the U.S., would become much easier. #4. Stopping illegal migration. Another major reason for not building infrastructure in the Darien Gap is to control illegal migration. Latin American countries are far behind North America in terms of economics, politics, and standard of living. Many South American nations suffer from corruption, weak governance, and political instability, driving millions of people to seek a better life elsewhere. For these people, the U.S. is the ultimate destination.